All right. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm just waiting for everybody to get caught up here, and we are going to start up on. Here we are. We're back on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome back to the Conservation Conversation. This is episode 22, and today we're going to talk about labels. Labels, not so good for people, really good for products that we buy. So if you're here, please say something in the comments. It should come up on the screen here, and hopefully we're going to get to say hi to everybody. So and again, today is going to be a great show, and please put the comments in. If you're typing comments and they're not coming through, let me know. I also have my Facebook page open, so we can try to fix that if there's an issue there. So I'm very excited to be back and see everybody. Oh, fantastic. First comment. Yes, beautiful. Let's see now. Okay, so who's that? Coralie. Hey, Coralie. Thank you for being here today. Always love to see you here on the show. And somebody who also does a lot of organic farming, and that's going to be actually something that we talk about today. So I wanted to welcome everybody back to episode 22. Oh, hey, Mom. Sally Bradley there, coming from the beautiful, beautiful hills of West Virginia. And Bruce. Hey, Bruce. Nice to see you back again. Hope you've been doing well. And yeah, I'm really excited today because today, the thing is, when you go to the store, there are so many different labels, and some of them are kind of misleading. And all of us have a diet that we follow, and all of us have a way of eating, and it's a mix of what we want to eat and our conscience and how we eat. So we all approach food very differently. So today's episode is based on a couple different aspects that's going to help everybody across the board, because the number one thing that we're going to talk about today is we're talking about a unique part of the environment we never talk about, which is people, humans, you, me. We're actually a very important part of this environment. We're not, we've talked about it before. It's not an ego system, it's an ecosystem. So we are part of all of this. And what we have to do is remember that, the better we take care of ourselves, the better we can take care of the world around us. So with that said, I say let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome back. Episode 22, Conservation Conversation. All right, here we go. Everybody's back. So nice to see everybody. So today, again, we're going to talk about the labels and how important it is for you to be able to know exactly what you're buying and how it's going to affect your health. Because there's a lot of very hidden things here. Oh, hey, Linda, nice to see you. Thanks for being on the show here. And Linda, you're in Lakeland now. Lakeland, Florida. Is where they're having a lot of issues where there was mining and the area has been reclaimed, and there's been a lot of health issues as a result in the area. So Linda, it's nice to see you here today. I know you are a clean water activist, and I know you are an environmental activist, and your work definitely is very important down there and never goes unnoticed. So today what I wanted to do is to start off on our quote, which is actually by William Shakespeare today. Our bodies are our gardens, and our wills are our gardeners. Now, the reason I think that that's a very important quote is that we all choose what we want to take in to our bodies, and all of us make what we consider good choices and healthy choices about what we eat. Hey, Michelle, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. And you know what? Actually, before we begin, I have to say I got this great shirt from a friend of mine down in Florida, and I want to share it with everybody. Let's see. Let me try to get a better shot of this. So this shirt here is from Mitch Allen, and we can. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to even myself off here. wecan.com. So it's a very fantastic shirt, and that's how a lot of us feel here, seeing our environment fall apart and not hearing about it from the people in charge of us, from our politicians. So hey, Camilla, thanks for being here. There's sound, but no video. I don't know if anyone else is having an issue with that. Let me know. We'll try to fix it. So, okay, here we go in today's show. So here we are. Now, what I want to talk about first of all is, Camilla, nice. Yeah, and by the way, friends, if you go to weekend.com, what I love about weekend.com is it's a nonpartisan place to find solutions to move forward with for clean water. And Mitch has been a longtime water activist, and he looks around many different aspects in the area. And so weekend.com, fantastic nonpartisan place. And again, we're never going to find solutions through partisan ideas. So anyway, let's get back to labels. Now, first of all, labels, again, as I said, good, not good for people, excellent for things you're going to buy. The thing about the labels is they're usually made out of plastic. So already we have, strike one. We have this whole issue of fruit labeling that is all plastic with those PLU numbers. Now, New Zealand is a very innovative place, and they've actually banned those fruit labels now from being on there. Now, the PLU system is amazing because it's universal. So if whatever you're seeing here, it's all around the world. And the thing is we don't really know how to read those per se. So I thought maybe we would just take a moment here and talk about those real fast. So the fruit labels, we're all familiar with these. Every time you go into the store, you are looking at fruit, and really you just know that there tends to be regular fruit and then more expensive organic fruit. What does it all mean? So now we're going to say there's a few distinct areas where the labels come in. Now, anything that starts with a 3, and there's really only 3 categories, so it's not going to be too hard. If there are 4 numbers beginning with a 3 or a 4, that means it was made with a conventional farming technique. Okay, and that is a very broad range of could mean anything. So if you see a 3 in front of it, it probably means pesticides, standard, don't really care, farming, mass farming. Now, if your label has an 8, and the 8 is there, and it's 5 numbers, always beginning with an 8, what that means is that it means that it is genetically modified. Okay, so every now and then, if you find an 8 in front of it, it has to be labeled that it is genetically modified. Now, you'll notice on this 8, it also says that it's organic. So if you were buying this Pink Lady apple, and by the way, I love Pink Lady apples. I don't know if you all are into them as well, but they're some of my favorites, actually. Pink Lady and Honeycrisp. So the 8, you wouldn't even notice the number. You would just look and see organic and buy it. But if GMO isn't a factor for you, then that would be a very misleading number. So now let's look at the very last one, the last category, which is the 9s. Now, if it's a 9, if it starts with a 9, it means that it's organic. Now, what does organic mean? That can vary, but generally it means it's pesticide-free and has a proven track record. So if you really are cautious, you're going to want to make sure there's a 9 in front of everything. And the very last one, I got this off a great website, plucodes.com, and it's a fantastic website to learn all about PLU codes. But you can see that 4-digit code, organically, 4-digit code, conventionally grown. 5-digit code, organic, starting with a 9. 5-digit code starting with an 8, genetically modified. Very simple breakdown. So just remember, if you see a 3 or 4, it's not going to be as healthy as if you can find one starting with a 9. And then depending on your view on GMO, you are going to either want to avoid one starting with an 8, or you're going to want to buy them. It's up to you. So, hey, Carrie, nice to see you. Thanks for being on today. And Michelle Kerr is here. Thanks, Michelle. It's nice to see you here today. And Emma, hey, Emma, thanks for joining us. It's great to see you back here on the show with us. It's so nice because it's like a small family. And for me, it's just always exciting to come back during the week. It's something I really look forward to every week. So it's really nice, and I love, because I always learn from everybody as well. So, if there's more things you guys know about the PLU codes, please put them up. And yeah, and Camilla, exactly. That's the thing. Be careful of those PLU codes. So remember, everybody, if it starts with a 3 or 4, it's conventional farming, which means pesticides, and it means glyphosate. Okay. If it's a number that starts with an 8, it means genetically modified, and if it starts with a 9, it means organic. So there we go. So be careful of that, and it'd be great if we could get rid of those little PLU codes. Anyway, I mean, it's fantastic we have the information, but it's horrible that we are putting little pieces of plastic that are single-use plastic on every piece of fruit. So it's a very conflicting thing for someone like me who's a vegetarian that says I want to live plastic-free, but unless you go to a farmer's market, you're kind of stuck with that. Thank you. Yeah, and you know what, Michelle? I'm going to put that graphic back up right after the podcast so everybody can refer to it. Download it. Again, plucodes.com. Great website. Fascinating to learn about. That may have sounded a bit nerdy, but if you're into PLU codes, that's going to be your home base. It's mine. Yes, exactly, Michelle. If you can, you go look at that and take that to the store with you. And that's the whole idea, is that if you have a nice, quick, and simple visual, it's easy for you to reference at the store to make sure you're buying what you want to buy. This is the most important thing. Again, all of us have a different philosophy and perspective on what we're going to eat and why we're going to eat that way. That's our individual choices that we make. But you need to be informed as a consumer. And I want to bring this up before we get into the next section, which is about beef. I personally don't eat meat or dairy. So my friends that do eat meat, I just wanted to I've been doing some studying, and there's something very interesting about this. We have kind of an issue here where approximately 80% of the U.S. beef is raised and processed here in America. About 20% of it comes from overseas. China is the #1 beef producer in the world. They've overtaken South America, and they've overtaken a few other countries. So China is actually currently the #1 exporter of beef internationally. Now, I know a lot of people are concerned about coronavirus, and I know a lot of people have a variety of opinions about coronavirus, but let me just say this to my friends that still eat meat. Please consider that recently there was a thing called COOL, and COOL was the country of origin labeling, and that was repealed by the USDA, I think in 2016, which means if your package of beef says product of USA, it does not mean it was raised here. It means it was processed inside of the United States, and it could be overseas beef. You just don't know. Now, I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but I am saying if you do eat meat, please be cautious, because right now there is a lot going on, at least in China, with the coronavirus and them being the major beef exporter. Who knows what's happening? And with the U.S. getting 20% of their beef imported, and without labeling, telling you exactly what you're buying, you just don't know. Okay, so please be careful. Please be careful out there, my friends that still eat meat. Maybe right now is a good time to say, you know what? Let me jump over and see what Eric's doing with all those salads. Okay, so let's see. Michelle says, yes, about the number thing you put up to take to the store. I literally freeze in the grocery store for a year now. I hate it. Michelle, I'm the same way. I get in there and it's really hard because, for me with my cancer, I'm very cautious about what I try to input. Hey, Barbara, thanks for joining. Nice to see you, Barbara. And that is a very important thing. And so for me, I try to be as organic as possible. Organic in itself has its own kind of issues anyway, with the labels too. So the next label that my friends that do eat beef, I wanted to bring up for you all is grass-fed. Now, I did a little research, and it's fascinating because there is no such thing as a certification for grass-fed, because the USDA does not have an official definition for what grass-fed means. So it's a label, and what it means is that pasture access during the animal's life is required, but the producers are allowed to define the specifics themselves, which results in huge variations, many of which are very subpar, and they include things like just having a small vent where they can see out, and that's considered, they may have like 1 foot of pasture inside of there. Not all of them. Now, feedlots are also allowed in the final months to use antibiotics and hormones. So even if it is grass-fed, please know that in the end, antibiotics and hormones will be used. Now, that is a very important thing, because there's only one, for my friends, again, that are doing this thing, well, what do we do? What do we do? There is only one label that you can get, and that is called Animal Welfare Approved. Now, Animal Welfare Approved is the only third-party certification in the U.S. that will definitely take care of everything. Now, the reason I bring this up is because we're getting into eggs, and a lot of people that don't eat meat still eat eggs. Now, when you're getting into eggs, a lot of people want to think that they're being kind. Now, there's a lot of crazy things going on. I'm going to put down a link for everybody so you can go check it out and you can find out exactly what your egg certifications mean. First thing I want to mention, though, is that if the animals have been caged, if it just says caged, if you're buying cheap eggs, so it's like $900 for $3 at Costco or whatever, the chickens live in a cage that is less than the size of a piece of paper. I can get the exact specific number for everybody, but I've never seen this before. It's square inches. Okay, square inches. Now, here's the reason why I bring up this thing about, let's see, I'm going to actually get an image of it for you guys. But the reason that I bring up that there's only one rating that really will tell you what you're looking for if you really want to be kind with eggs is that animal welfare approval, because it's the only one that does not allow them to, they do forced molting in most factories, and they do what's called beak cutting. And if you're not familiar with that, I don't really want to get too deeply into it, but please Google it and study and learn for yourself. Now, if you want to make sure that the chickens were given outdoor freedom and they were not had their beaks cut and they were not forced to molt, that animal welfare certification is literally the only one. All other ones allow beak cutting, and that's why I'm not going to go through all of them, but I just wanted to bring up that there's only one that actually will do that. And let me bring this up for you right now so everybody can see this. Okay, and this is animal welfare approved, and this is the only one that if you do see this one, it means that the chickens had a very natural life. Okay, they didn't stay inside those cages that were less than a size of a piece of paper. So eggs, slippery slope. Eggs are people are really into those, and I know that if people do have, but that, again, it goes back to all of us have to find a way that where we're comfortable eating. We all have rules that we like to follow in the sense of how we eat. So a lot of people say if I'm going to eat beef, it better be grass-fed. Well, now we know it doesn't really actually mean anything. Not enforceably, at least. Nothing can be proven. And it also means that they're going to end up with antibiotics anyway. So I just want people to be more careful what they're taking in to their bodies. And I know, listen, we're all at the point now where this is very important to us. We've all reached this toxicity within our entire society where so many people are getting sick that everyone is taking control again of their own way of eating. And I don't like to use the word diet because diet culture is a very unhealthy thing in itself. But learning about nutrition is absolutely invaluable. And the problem is we're not really taught about it. We had the food pyramid when I was a kid that just said to eat a lot of bread and starches and red meat and everything would be fine. It didn't work out that way for me. So I don't follow that diet anymore. So let's see. And Sherry, hey Eric, love your shirt. Yes, Sherry Allen. Great label info and helpful. Thank you, Sherry. Another great activist that I know down in Florida. And again, go to weekend.com, everybody. Please check it out because the only solutions we're going to find are nonpartisan. Right now we're in this election and people are so heated up on one side or the other. And, it goes back to previous episodes that we've talked about. It's what's more important than a presidency are the agencies that outlast the presidencies. So right now the USDA and the EPA are getting their funds cut. By the way, when we go back to talking about the USDA, let's also talk about the fact that their budget was slashed. Now, the problem with that is that the meat producers in the country, the USDA is only going to actually inspect about a third of what they had inspected before. So again, we are in, if you're concerned about the coronavirus, right now beef is a very just be careful. Here's the other thing I want to mention, because I don't want people to think that I'm anti-meat or anything. What I wanted to mention to everybody is that if you do see this animal welfare approved label, and you like meat and eggs, that label, actually what they do is they tend to certify organic farmers, small farmers, local farmers. So when you're buying that, you're paying a little bit more, but you are paying for a local farmer to survive. And when we think of farmers, we think of local farmers. We don't think of these giant corporations that are actually producing all the food. And there's a lot of great documentaries on that. I highly recommend, if you want to learn more about factory farming and why it's unhealthy for the animals, for the planet, and for us, check out Dominion. Great documentary, very hard to watch. And a few others. Now, a lot of these stories are buried in the United States because of ag-gag laws. And we've gone over this before, but there is actually a law in America that says you're not allowed to show the agricultural business in a bad light. And if you do, you are subject to federal charges. So the ag-gag law applies, and it's an invisible. We don't have this conversation in our country. We just assume someone's watching and helping us and paying attention. And the truth is they're not. And as a result, we are getting sicker in entirety from our water, from our food supplies, and they all tie in together, because these giant factory farms, then to all their output goes into the local rivers, and the people end up drinking all these pesticides, hormones, and other things in their waters that they wouldn't know is in there because it's invisible. You can't see these things. So it's really important, and I really think it's important that we think back and we really take care of ourselves. And just know that we live in a very toxic society. We live in a very toxic time. And the most important thing we can do is ensure that what we take into us is the least toxic that we can, because we're important. Everybody here is very important. Everybody you know is important. We are the answer. We are the solution. And, it's a beautiful thing. And if we can learn to take care of ourselves and our brothers and sisters in health, then we can learn how to take care of all the animals and all the plants in health as well, because it's a way of thinking. It's not just a state of being. Yes, Sherry, I agree. It's all connected. Absolutely. Thank you, Camilla. WatchDominion.com. Great link to go to that documentary. And yes, I agree 100%. Sherry, we are all connected. And again, it goes back to that we are part of the ecosystem, not an ecosystem, which is more of a triangle with the man at the top. That's not the way it works. And, we thought it worked that way, and we thought we controlled everything. Again, this goes back to the reason we have these labels goes back to us getting into mass-produced food and international food trade. That's the only reason we have this. So there was some uniformity to it. Before that, there were farmers, and the farmers were the ones. And again, those are the people we want to take care of. My family are farmers. I have a lot of family farmers in Illinois, and they eventually had to sell their family farm because times got so tough. And, Monsanto was creeping in and all these GMO crops, and they just could not stay up with the industry. And a lot of small farmers have actually been put out of business and bought into larger farms. So when we talk about farming, we're not always talking about Farmer John, in this local farmer concept that we have. Again, Forks Over Knives, great documentary that removes that concept of what we think is where our table's coming from and where it actually is. And hey, Vicki, thanks for being here today. I always love to see you join the show with us. And today we're talking about labels. And friends, if you have any labels that you've come across, please let me know. Because the more we can learn about these labels, the more we can know exactly what we're buying. And that's the whole point of today, is regaining our control, and that goes in every aspect of environmentalism. And environmentalism is changed by the revolution of routine through consumerism. We talk about this all the time. Stop buying plastic straws, please, and they'll stop making them. We have that power, and we the people are pissed off. And it's true, because they just keep making them and then forcing us to choose those things. But we have to remember that we have the power to make the change. So if you buy fruit that starts with a 9 that's guaranteed to be organic all the time, and that outsells fruits coming from 3 and 4 in your PLU codes that's just conventionally grown, they're going to find ways to adapt and change the way things are done, because we're entering a whole new time. So Now, okay, let's move on to another label that I personally enjoy, which is the Non-GMO Project Verified. Now, the Non-GMO Project is fantastic, and they actually do test for lots of GMO in products. Now, the thing about it is, it's a misused label. The label's absurd. For example, I've seen it on almonds, and there's no such thing as a GMO almond at the moment. So it's kind of like, well, we're not GMO, so we just put the label on. Like, they don't have to. It can be a little bit misused, although it is a great label. .org used to be trustworthy. Which one's that? Okay. Yes, non-GMOproject.org. Yes, and now again, it's just being used in such a crazy amount of ways. One more thing I wanted to mention about these PLU codes, by the way, there are fruits or food that is considered proprietary and therefore has no PLU codes generally, which tends to be pineapple. So yeah, fascinating little side note. I was like, that's really interesting. I never knew that. I guess I don't. I buy it usually whole, and I never even think about looking for the code. Yeah, so that's another fascinating fact. Because as I think a lot of you know, pineapple is grown from a proprietary strain, and it's very controlled by just a few companies. And in a few podcasts, actually, we're going to get into these, basically the South America takeover of the fruit and banana businesses. And we're going to talk about the Banana Republic as it became to be known down there. So bananas bananas have PLU codes, but pineapples do not. So now the next section I want to talk to is my friends that eat fish. There's one label that's it's very difficult because there's so many different varieties of it, and everybody has their specifics that they like to eat. But there is one that I always see called the MSC, which is the sorry about that. We'll come back to that in a second. That's the Marine Stewardship Council. Now, when I used to eat fish before I turned vegan, the Marine Stewardship Council, I would only buy stuff that came with that stamp on it, because I thought that it would mean that things were correct. Then I learned that it's about 25 years old, and as you can see, it's trademarked, so it's kind of a weird thing. And they only certify about 15 to 20% of the world's catch, so they have a very small fingerprint ultimately. But the problem is they have loopholes that allow these longliners that go out and participate in shark finning. Now, everybody remembers shark finning from previous episodes and the horror of it and how we're trying to stop it. And here we have the Marine Stewardship Council, who is supposed to be saying that if you buy from them, you're guaranteeing that there's no shark finning, there's nothing crazy going on, that this is all done responsibly. Now there's actually been documented case where they have allowed these purse seiners to do finning in tuna fisheries, and they still receive MSC certification. Now, if you're not familiar with a purse seiner and you're going, Eric, what are you talking about? A purse seiner is a very controversial and for the most part illegal, but widely used form of fishing, where one main boat sits here and then a smaller boat will drag a big net around like that. And sometimes they'll use illegal things like bright lights to bring the fish up. But anyway, they get the fish in, and then the nets are brought in and then processed on the big boats. I think I've shown you guys some of the videos of those big boats before, and it's insane the amount of fish they pull, the purse seiners. So the purse seiner, the problem with it is that it's not targeted. It's a non-targeted way of fishing, so they bring in all kinds of bycatch, including turtles, dolphins, and sharks. And they don't care. They grab what they can for profit and throw the rest off. So it's a very, very dangerous and very non-targeted, destructive form of fishing. So the problem is the MSC does allow this to go on. Now, the reason that I put this on is all these groups got together and put together a petition in April of 2019 asking the MSC to please close those loopholes, please stop this shark finning and allowing this, and please stop certifying things where shark finning has occurred. And they're also supposed to prove that they've managed to curb finning in certain fisheries, which they have not. So, my friends that eat fish, please be careful, because the MSC at the moment doesn't quite represent what it's supposed to in labels. So, here we go again. And what we're finding again is that no matter how you eat, the labels are always misleading. There's advertising agencies, and they come up with ways to do this. Like I said, maybe you're going to be excited because you found some non-GMO almonds, or maybe you're excited because that you found grass-fed beef, so it's probably in your mind it's just living in the pasture, and a lot of times it is, and that is true, but you're also imagining that it's only grass-fed and it's all natural, and so you're adding those words, all natural, to grass-fed. See, and this is where the psychology of advertising really kicks in. And a lot of these, well, first of all, each of these groups has their own lobbying industry. Remember, the beef lobbying industry actually sued Oprah and won. They're like the only people that ever destroyed Oprah. If you ever want to read a great book about that, Mad Cowboy is a fantastic book about a beef farmer who ended up going on Oprah, and then it turned into that whole lawsuit from that group. So you have money behind it. You have lobbying. These are invisible forces that keep this advertising going, and these PLU codes and these categories are ways of continuing that. Now, of course, the ideal it would be so nice if we just had farmers markets everywhere and we could go to those, but not everybody has access to those. So a lot of us are stuck with grocery stores, and there's not much option we have. You buy an apple with a plastic PLU code on it, you're not a bad person. So, I wanted to come back to that idea that that somehow, we're the only change. We need to demand these companies change the way that they do business. Now, in the 50s, food became industrialized, and we went from the small farmer, like my old family, to the industrialized farms. And then we turned into international, so that, we ended up making so much that we have a surplus, and we end up selling that surplus. So it became another industry for us, and that has driven, but it has left common sense in the dust, and it has left our health completely wide open and vulnerable. And as many of you know, I'm battling cancer. I've been battling it since 2005. It's an environmental form of cancer that the doctors are pretty baffled about. And we still don't know where it comes from. And I just ate, all the industrial foods, and I ate all that stuff for a long time. And I changed over after that. And, it has stopped and slowed the growth of the tumors. But I also live in Los Angeles, which has tons of oil fields and has accelerated cancer rates as well. So there's that aspect. And then I was, between the food and the water that we have here and the oil wells, and we have signs in our buildings that say known to cause cancer. This building known to the state of California to cause cancer. So that's a sign that you don't like to see when you go in somewhere, but it's a sign you have to pay attention to. But what are you going to do? You can't just be like, I refuse, We need people in charge to step up for us, because this is just simple. They put those stupid signs up so that the landlords don't have to pay money to redo, so it's safety. Look, they didn't know there was lead in the paint was causing problems for kids, but when they found out, they had to correct it. So, we have to remember that our cultural knowledge and the advertising industry are always at battle with each other, and we're always discovering what they're up to, and they're always having to change their mode to keep us fooled. And it's just ridiculous, because they should just tell us what's happening and let us choose, because it's supposed to be that we own the market. But in fact, very often we make choices that sometimes work against us, because we're not taught these things about labels. I don't know why. It's one of the most important things when you walk into a grocery store. What are you going to buy? Now, I want to come back to Buycott, the app that I use, and I love it. You can go to Buycott.com. You can download it. I'm not a spokesman for them. I just think it's outstanding. And you know what? A lot of people have actually written to me and said, how do I use Buycott? So I'm going to shoot a video next week, hopefully. I think it's next week. And I will show everybody how it works in the grocery store. It's fantastic. It's an app. It's very easy to use, because what you can do is you start off by choosing your cause, your belief, your campaigns that are important to you. I don't want animal product. I don't want whatever. I don't want unfair labor. There's so many aspects to what we buy. Conventional labor, by the way, means slave labor for the most part for the people that are working as the farmers in the fields. And those farmers in the field tend to be people that are either coming over on temporary immigration visas or local workers, and a lot of them are exposed to glyphosates and have accelerated birth defects. And this is very commonly known in Florida, especially in a town called Waimea. Oh gosh, I always say this wrong. In Florida, and it's where a lot of the workers are, the field workers, and they have a huge population of birth defects. Anyway, that is something that we all have to remember. And again, it's all connected, from the workers in the fields to what we eat to the animals around it. You know, they display all these glyphosates. Now we're having a problem where the glyphosate has been proven to have all kinds of issues, and suddenly we are in a period where they're trying to officially say that everything's fine with it. But again, I don't think that you necessarily want to go buying Roundup. It's, you know, for over 10, 15 years now been proven to have all these side effects. And my friends, if you do not have cancer and you're just going to blow this idea off that glyphosates are bad for you, my plea to you is don't take that gamble. If you don't have to do what I'm doing, don't. You know, don't. The last thing in the world you want to gamble with is your health. And a lot of us have forgotten that because we've been made to feel like the health is the last important thing. You know, you get up, you go to work, you gotta get there fast, you're late, and you're gonna rush around after work, and you're gonna come home and you're gonna grab a quick dinner to eat, and maybe a TV dinner that's made out of salt and who knows what, and that's your day. And who cares if you ate? Somehow there's this weird pride in suffering in working, and it makes no sense because we are important. And it's been knocked out of us generationally over the last 50, 60 years. But we have to remember that and reclaim that. And when we reclaim our health, we reclaim our world. And I always say it's our world. Let's talk about it. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Camilla says, free range means nothing in the UK. The chicken is given the size of an iPad and lives his entire life in pain and discomfort. Marketing and clever use of language hides so much suffering. So true. Camilla, they tried to, it reminds me of 1984. If anybody remembers the whole thing about the chocolate rations in the very opening of the film, it's the same thing. They're taking the worst news possible and trying to spin it to make people feel like they're doing good. And I know that people are actually being tricked sometimes into unintentionally doing harm they're trying to avoid. And that is just not good. Not cool. And it comes back to cool, which is the country of origin labeling. I don't know, I just had to bring that back in. Why don't we bring that back? I can't believe that we don't have that. And again, my friends that eat meat, please be careful. Please stick with your local farmers if you can, people that you know. It's probably the best way to go right now with the way everything is. Hey, Molly, thanks for joining us. Molly is another incredible clean water activist down in Florida. And Molly is always out there fighting for animal and environmental rights. So it's an honor to always see her name pop up on the show. Excuse me. Michelle says, in Modesto, we see many workers affected by agricultural chemicals. Really? Now that's fascinating because I know that is a huge agricultural area in California. And I was wondering about what kind of numbers, you would see there. And Michelle, please, any more information that you want to share with us about what you see up there? I would love to know more because, that all comes back to this big problem of us using all these pesticides. Excuse me. Now, recently the EPA allowed a new pesticide, and forgive me if I say this incorrectly. Ironically, that was the word I said incorrectly. If I say this incorrectly, sulflaxor is a pesticide that they're now using that actually kills bees, and we all know what's happening with the bees. So, it was just recently approved by the EPA. So, again, we have to come back to the EPA. Now, the EPA and the USDA. This is a team. This is quite a team we have to battle here, because they're both attacking us from two sides. And again, we got to remember, it's not politics. These are agencies that are going to outlast presidencies. So we need to not so much focus on who's in the White House, but focus on who's in these agencies, because they're the ones that keep us safe or not. Molly said, sorry I'm late. happening now. Love homegrown foods. Remember the organics. Yes. Yes. And yeah, Molly was very into organic food, and she was awesome. I remember we were hanging out one day, and she opens her lunch bag, and it's like 7 oranges. And I was like, yes, and she gets it. She understands and appreciates natural organic food, and also homeopathic, as well. Because, I mean, I think that, regardless of how people want to see it or not, it only makes sense that until Merck Industries and Bayer and Tylenol and Monsanto existed, humans had medicine for thousands of years. And it didn't involve taking any pills. And remember, we talked about biopiracy in a previous podcast, where almost 75% of all medicines come from under 3% of plants in the Amazon. So we have a huge untapped resource in the Amazon to learn from, but the problem is that they're actually burning the Amazon right now and opening it for something stupid like logging. So here we have this treasure trove of information, and we're just destroying it so we can get some cheap dressers from IKEA. Now, sorry, I don't mean to jump topic to topic. If you missed the episode that we did in Romania, why I said IKEA is that IKEA is the #1 producer of low-cost wood-made products. Now, the problem with IKEA is they actually are the #1 contributor to illegal logging in the world, and especially in Romania, which has the 2/3 of Europe's old-growth forest left in it, and it's being destroyed slowly, mostly because of IKEA. And I know it sounds crazy. IKEA's owner was a Nazi. He was in the Nazi Party, and he actually, recently they've discovered that in Romania he was funding the secret police who were going out and making sure that the illegal logging could continue. Because unfortunately, it's, when you start bringing these companies in, it's a big sphere. I personally have bought everything from IKEA for the last 10 years. I couldn't imagine doing it elsewise. The other bad thing about IKEA is that it's put a lot of craftsmen out of work. So if you are refurnishing your house, a lot of people, and I think Michelle brought this up before, to recycle instead of buying new stuff. Go buy a nice wooden drawer that was made by a craftsman, because these IKEA things are coming from illegally deforested areas, including the Amazon, Romania, and many, many other old forests. And it's a highly destructive single-use pattern that we have, the same as plastics. Let's see. And then Michelle says, horrible and accepted. Yes, I can get numbers. The biggest shock is it's just known and accepted. Not for this new California girl. Michelle, that's fascinating, because that really says a lot. It's always very frightening when the problem is accepted as part of the system. And this is where things make no sense to a lot of us. At least I'm sure to all of us on this show, and to all of our friends. People that really search for what's happening, and people that want to know what's a little bit more about the world around them. And it's crazy that it's accepted. So I really, and honestly, that's kind of an appalling thing. I found the same problem in many agricultural and industrial areas all around the U.S., including Massachusetts, that has terrible runoff of chemicals, down to Florida, which has lots of issues. Can't even start listing those at the moment, but they have a lot going on down there. Those people are dodging things right and left, yeah, and their activists are like constantly in a training montage, ready to jump into battle, because they just don't know what's next down there. And it's true. I mean, they're being poisoned from every possible angle. And yeah, Michelle, that's fascinating. I wanted to do some more research into what's happening here in California, because California produces tons of America's produce. Florida coming in with the most amount of citrus, I believe. California has a lot of almonds, pomegranates. We have a lot going on. And yeah, Sherry says it's a war down there. So, and Sherry, I was like kind of joking about the training montage all the time, but I really mean that. And, I know that people, I always say this, but again, Florida to me is an amazing example of activism, because it's the place where most people would just shrug and walk away and give up, because it's an overwhelming amount of stuff that's stacked on these people, and everyone there fights back because everybody wants their next generation to be better and to have the beauty that they had in their previous generation and the photos they saw of their grandparents. There's amazing riverways down there, like the Peace River and these other areas that are just being used as dumping grounds by corporations, and no one's regulating it. And people like Sherry and Molly and Mitch and Michelle Fuller and a lot of other people here on this podcast that jump in are down there saying, no, we're going to come together and we're going to think this out. We'll think this out for you, because obviously the politics aren't working. And again, that's another reason why the conversation is important. Every time shopping comes up, if you can educate somebody about what these codes mean, you can change the way that they shop, and it'll change the way that they want to buy their food. Now, this is all well and good, except for one thing I want to bring up is food insecurity. A lot of us, and we have to remember this too, and this is the other aspect of this, a lot of us are lucky that we have this option, to choose. Do I want a 9? Do I want organic? Do I want GMO 8? Do I want a PLU 3, just conventional? Like maybe that's cheaper today. A lot of us have that luxury, and a lot of people don't have that luxury. So we have to remember, when it comes to food accessibility, there's a lot of food deserts out there, and there's a lot of people that have to buy what they have the option to buy. And so you can't, and the reason I say that is because, for example, when I go shopping, I don't use a plastic bag to put my cucumber in. I just put it in the basket. You don't need those little bags for like your tomato and you put in a plastic bag. You don't need that. You can help educate people on that. That's unnecessary use of plastic, but there's other things that people are not going to be able to change. And so, when it comes to conversations about our shopping habits and our buying habits, we have to remember that some people don't have that luxury. So those of us that do, we can participate, and we can even out the people that don't have that option. And we have to remember there's a lot of food insecurity in this country. Again, if you're choosing between a 3 and a 9, you're living great, because you're not worrying where your next meal is coming from. So there's a lot going on there as well. And so it's not just health for the wealth. Health needs to be for everybody. And that's why we need to reconceive the whole system in the way that it is. All those labels that I showed you today, animal welfare accepted, those again are only going to be coming in if you're willing to pay 3 times the amount that you're going to pay for a conventionally grown or conventionally done thing. So yes, Molly, fantastic. Lead by example. That is exactly it. In all of our communities, we're always kind of the weird ones. We show up with our recyclable mugs at Starbucks, and we don't use the plastic things we're supposed to. We need to do that, and it's good. It's good to be different. People remember you, and it opens a conversation. And when people get mad at you, remember that we're here for conversations, not for arguments. And every time you disagree with somebody, it's a wonderful moment to open a conversation and examine each other's perspectives and try to broaden everyone's horizons, to understand where they're coming from, and to help them understand where we're coming from. So please, especially in this heated political time, take this time to talk about what's most important, which is our environmental health, our personal health, and our ability to have access to information. And I don't understand why these labels have been modified. I don't understand why they removed the country of origin label. I don't understand why they hide the truth of what we're eating to us. But I just hope that today has helped everybody get a better idea of which labels to use when you're out there. Again, if you want to eat eggs, remember that let me put it back up for you all, just to remember, this animal welfare approved is the only one where there is no beak cutting. Everything else involves beak cutting. And again, if you don't know what that is, please Google it, and you can make up your own decision how comfortable you are with eggs, that's the policy that they use. And again, I'm not here to judge. Everyone has their level, and again, we all need to We all eat according to our philosophy or according to our belief system or according to our needs. So we all have different needs. But again, whether you eat meat, fish, dairy, eggs, or me, just vegetables and fruits, be careful because it's all tricky out there. And being a vegetarian, vegan, I can still eat lots of unhealthy things because they're still mislabeled. So I don't have a guarantee. I'm not on the right, I'm on the right path to be healthy for my particular body, but I still don't know. And I had to learn, that's why I learned all these codes, because that's why I became a PLU code nerd. That's right. I can tell I got some other PLU code nerds out there today. Let's see. Molly, no compromise. Yes. Coralie, teach the children. Yes. This is the most important thing. The lack of nutritional education we were afforded, we need to now go out and learn on our own and then pass down through generations. We need to make it official. We have the internet. We're out of the dark ages. Like I grew up in the dark ages. It was just the official story of everything. Now we have the internet. We can share, we can grow, and we can teach our children how to take care of themselves. And in return, they will take care of each other and the animals around us and the environment around us. Hey Lola, thanks for joining today. It's always great to see you on here. Another great activist, and always glad to have you on the show. Camilla says they know we wouldn't buy it if the truth was known, and that's exactly it. So today's episode was about cutting through all that and having a way to know what kind of fruit you're buying, what kind of stuff you're buying, and again, be very careful. And when it comes back to the glyphosate thing, there's an argument right now in court over whether Monsanto and Roundup causes cancer or not. I'm not going to weigh in on that per se. I think a lot of us probably have a perspective on that it obviously does, because it's been proven what happens with glyphosates. But my friends that don't have a chronic illness or cancer, please don't take that gamble, because if you get stuck with it, I wish I could turn back the clock and maybe if I would have been educated with all this stuff, I could have avoided the environmental factors that enacted the cancer cells inside of me. I don't know. I wasn't given that opportunity. Maybe the next generation will be. Right? Camilla's now a total PLU nerd. Yeah, that's it. PLU club. I've been trying to think of some conservation shirts. Maybe we'll get a little PLU sticker on there or something. Lola says, I went by, it's what I don't eat, but now that's harder with labels. Exactly. That's it's really nuts. And I'm going to put a link down here after the show, because I want everybody to go down there. There's actually a group that's fighting to try to get these cool labels placed back again. Now, if you are joining in late, a few of the things that are really important to remember is that, again, we were talking about this, about 80% of the meat is grown here in the United States. And with the recent changes in the USDA budgets, 1/3 of that will now be inspected. Okay? The rest of it's self-inspection, which, as we know from most corporations, doesn't end up well for the consumer. So please be careful. Now, the 20% that comes in, we don't know where it comes in from because they got rid of the country of origin labeling, but we do know that China is the largest producer of beef now, and they've actually overtaken South America and the other place. So please remember that, and then when it comes in, and if you have concerns over the coronavirus, or you have concerns over where your food is coming from, there is a group that's fighting to bring back the country of origin labels. If you look at your meat and it says product of USA, that does not mean it was grown here in America. It means it was processed in America. The beef itself could be from anywhere. Unfortunately, the USDA has decided you shouldn't know that, and they stopped that in 2016. Terrible, terrible move. So I just wanted to put that back into a quick nutshell for everybody, because it's a very important point. Remember that the MSC label still allows long lining and shark finning, and I'll also put a link down there. There's a group that is fighting to try to change that, and my friend Randall brought that up down in Costa Rica, and I will put a link to his website as well, because he fights for anti-shark finning down in Costa Rica, and he really has his finger on the pulse. I've been trying to get him on the show, but he's so busy. He's always in Cocos Islands diving and saving sharks and trying to stop finning. The guy is a powerhouse and a force in this whole fight. to stop finning, and he's the one that brought up the MSC thing to me. And hopefully I can get him on the show at some point and we can talk some more with him a little bit further. So remember, if you eat fish, MSC is a questionable label. Remember that if you eat fruit, you want to watch out for things that start with 3 or 4 on your PLU code, because that means it's grown with pesticides and glyphosates. You want to, if you can, buy 9s because those are organic. And you know what, Mari, fantastic point. We need more local farmers. We need to, again, you know, from the 50s, we had a nice system where everything was localized, and then it became industrialized, and then it's like a monster out of control. And I think there's a great movement now to bring it all back, because we owe it to our farmers. We owe it to our farmers. You know, and the farmers are not the bad guys in any way, shape, or form. Industrial farmers, small-time farmers, all farmers are fighting, and you know, the small-time farmers are fighting for preservation of a legacy as well. And you know, and again, if I come back to this to this animal welfare approved chart, I just wanted to remind everybody, if you do see this, it means that they sourced a local farmer. So you know that you're helping a local farmer. And again, we can vote with our dollars. Remember, the revolution through daily routine. What you buy is how things will change and go. And Molly says wash it. And exactly, always wash your fruit, no matter what the claim is. Always wash the fruit, because you just don't know. And, you know, Mari, it would be nice, because I think if we go back to this local farming, it would be great to be able to go to a little, like, I love little stands with local farms here, you know, because you can know them, and you can know who they are, and you know where they are. And you guys may or may not know this, but most local farms you can contact, and they will give you a tour of the farm. So I've actually gone out and to take a look at some of them before. And yeah, so, you know, you can really, really know your farmer, and it's important that we bring the economy back to the working man. You know, well, the companies don't need any more money. Kellogg's is not a food company, you know, but the farmer down the road that's trying his best to grow organic produce, hook that guy up. Lola says, living in Ohio, I buy direct from organic farmers. Hopefully their field is not next to GMOs. Now, Lola, that's an interesting point. There is a friend of mine, and some people here will know who this person is, who tried to get an organic status, and there was actually so much industrial runoff, industrial runoff, and he ended up not getting his organic thing, because his organic status, because he happened to live adjacent to a huge corporate industrial polluter. So it's really, you know, it's hard to say. And with Monsanto, we all know that those crops can go through the wind and affect other crops, and then they end up suing a lot of those small farmers. We know those stories. We've heard those stories. And, you know, we can't stop Monsanto, but we can if we just start buying from the local farmers. Easier said than done. Lola, I'm glad to know that's how that, you know, that's awesome to know that's how that runs in Ohio. California, it's harder for us. We have farmers markets. And again, you know, all of us that can, we need to make sure that we do for ourselves and our bodies, but also to help put a voice out there, an economic voice that says, please, you know, we care about what you're feeding us. And we want to know the truth. We just want some transparency. Just want some transparency. It's not asking for that much. So when they remove it and they put it in an industrial farm that you're not allowed to go in, and again, if you go take video pictures of it, you can be federally charged with ag-gag laws. Monsanto, there's a Monsanto Protection Act that allows Monsanto to be protected from any lawsuits regarding an illness that comes up through their use. Terrible thing, but that comes through. And again, all these are bipartisan. We're not, this is a long-running problem, because these pesticide makers and these industrial things are the inner circle. You know, these are the companies that run everything, and the government, basically their job is to just make sure that they make as much money as possible, these companies. It used to be that they would also protect us when, like in the 70s, when Nixon created the EPA. And, you know, That was a massive cleanup and change. I don't know if people remember. Some of you might remember, but they used to get rid of tires by just lining them along the rivers. And people were like, oh my gosh, we're turning into a trash dump. And the EPA was formed to clean all that up. Now the EPA has been gutted, unfortunately. And again, there's a coal lobbyist that's running it. And meanwhile, the EPA is slashing all these things, and people are very excited, but all they're slashing is our protections. So if they're not going to take care of us, we need to take care of us, all of us, okay? So we need to make sure that our friends are knowledgeable, that they're buying stuff that's good for them, no matter how they eat, okay? So please take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the earth around us, take care of the animals around us, and always remember it's our world, and we need to talk about it all the time. So that was today's issue on labels, and I'm going to put all these links down here afterwards. Thank you everybody for joining. It's always fun to sit down and talk about these. Next week, hopefully, we're going to talk about cosmetics and how you can buy cosmetics with the proper conscience in how you approach cosmetics. So there's a lot of tricks out there being used, and we're going to delve into those, and it's going to be very exciting. We're going to have a very exciting guest. I cannot wait to tell you all more about that. And friends, I have fantastic news coming. There's a new project I've been working on. It's very close to my heart, and I'm going to be able to talk about it in about 2 weeks. And I'm working on it right now, and I cannot wait to share it with everybody. So that's going to be coming up. We'll do a special podcast episode just for that. And yes, and thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Molly. And thank you, Coralie, Lola, Mari. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Camilla, my mom, Sally Bradley, for being here. And, you know, everybody, again, this means a lot to me. It's very important that we have these kind of open discussions about what's happening, because there's all these little teeny tricks to the trade that we're just not let in on. And so I hope the show helps you find those little tricks. And I cannot wait. We've got a few new episodes coming up. And as one other thing I wanted to say is, a lot of my friends that are out there doing activist work, or even if you just see crazy stuff and you have your cell phone, I'm going to be doing a really fun, free kind of a workshop over the weekend coming up in about 3 weekends from now. I'll put an ad out for you guys. And it's going to be filmmaking for activists. So it's going to be a lot of the basics on how to, if you want to research stuff, if you want to be careful about stuff. So it's going to tackle things on how to get information, how to be discreet in your searches, and how to get the video that you need to tell your story. Because here's the thing, is we are all, I always say this, we're all flashlights in the dark. You know, we all have access to parts of the world that the rest of us don't. And the best thing we can do is show it to each other so we know the truth. And at that point, we can make better informed decisions. You know, think of the videos as like our emotional PLU codes, right? And they are. So it's really important. Like I always say, everybody take care of each other. This is a wonderful, wonderful family that we've got here, and I love our conversations. I cannot wait for next week. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Lola. Thank you, Michelle, for being on today, and that information about what's happening in Modesto. I'm going to continue to research on that, and I think we should do a podcast on that, because that is not spoken about very much. And thanks, Mom. Thanks for being on again. And Molly says, it's great. I love seeing everybody talk to each other on the show. Okay, everybody, thanks for being here, and have a great week, and I will see you all next week. Remember, it's our world. Let's talk about it.